Well, hi, good morning, and thanks so much for joining me here in my shop while I fight with this radio some more. I worked on this a few months ago, and then I stopped for a couple of months, and now I started up again. And some memories are coming back to me of trouble with the tube sockets in this radio, which I thought I had settled down. I think I've thought I've settled it down a couple of times, but no, I haven't. Now, I don't have a close-up camera to really show this, but I pulled one tube out and was just looking very carefully down in the socket there and trying to shove some kind of brush in it. I'm busily looking for an electric, a little brush that you would use to clean your electric razor, which I think might fit, but I did find this pipe cleaner. And they cannot shove it down through the where the pins go in the socket. So I can't quite use this. But in doing that and roughing it up a little bit, I noticed quite a bit of red colored rust around the area where I finished doing that. So I'm going to take a guess that the way they constructed these tube sockets is the clamping part. It's like a two-piece sprung together part, and you're pushing the tube pin down through it like that. Oops. These parts are made of steel. That's my guess. The reason? Because steel has some springiness to it. A lot of other metals, there's no springiness, like copper, for instance. You can't have springy copper. So steel, but steel rusts. So what do? Well, you put a coating on it to stop it from rusting, put zinc on it. That's what it looks like. When you look in these, in the tube socket, the color of the metal inside the socket looks like it could be zinc or something like that. Zinc is a good coating for steel, especially out in the atmosphere, but it only lasts so long before it itself has rusted away. And eventually the steel gets exposed, and then you can see some red rust happening, which is what I saw down here, some red rust. So it could be the state of these sockets in this radio are far worse than what I've anticipated or ever come across before. It seems I have perpetual trouble here with tube socket contact. So I really want to finish this off, solve it once and for all. I've never struggled so much with tube sockets. And so far I've got no real good way of getting in there and cleaning it up. And if it is a case that I'm describing where the zinc is basically worn out and now you've got some bare steel in there, a little bit of moisture, a little bit of humidity, you get a little bit of rust, it's a permanent problem with this radio now, which would have to be dealt with periodically, I would think. So that's where I'm stuck. I'm stuck until I get these tubes settled down. I can't do much more. And the other thing is, as I've mentioned before, wiggling them scares the bejesus out of me, because there is a problem with pulling one of these tubes out while the set's operating, or putting one in while the set is operating. You can damage the tubes. And so likewise, if you're wiggling it, it can be the case that the contacts to the heater disappears. It's just like pulling the tube out. And I'm putting the other tubes at risk the more I fool around with this. That's the situation. That's a little bit of CB radio. The CB radio skip has been up a lot in the last while. So, okay, I've got to figure out some way I can get in there and really clean these guys out. Well, I haven't found anything in my house that's a tiny little brush that's going to go down into those slopes. Here's a brass brush. Be good, but there's no way it's going down in the little holes. The only thing I can think of that will go in those holes nicely is a tube. Now, this is the tube out of the radio. This is a spare tube. And I think I'm going to use this as the cleaner and just plunge it a lot up and down. And I don't know what else to do at this point, unless I can find a teeny tiny little brush. I'm thinking what I'm trying to do here is abrade the surface, the inside surface of the pin contact. And you know, a brush just sounds like a much nicer thing, but would I ever find one small enough to go in there? Pretty questionable, really. So here's what I'm going to do for now. And again, I don't know how to test these afterwards in any kind of effective way, other than to put tubes in, turn the radio on and wiggle them. Goodness knows if this is really improving the situation or not. But what else have I got here? I was thinking about some kind of fluid which would wash away the rust in some way. I don't know that there is such a fluid really. I'm thinking about WD-40 as an oil. Normally you'd think oil. Well, oil doesn't conduct, so why would you want oil involved in this? The oil might coat the metal surface, assuming the anti-corrosion coating is worn away, and take the place of it. Because I say, well, the oil is going to absorb water because most oil is hygroscopic, but not WD-40. WD-40 is actually anti-water. It's a water displacement. WD, water displacement. Well, that's one done. I don't want to mix these tubes up, so I'm going to stick this one back in there. Okay, and we'll just go on to this one. I'm just going to keep doing this. To me, it's a long shot, but it's the only shot I've really got here. Spare tube. I'm doing this at different depths. I'm pushing the tube down a little further, a little further. You know, and the normal position of the tube is driven right in tight, and of course it's very hard to abrade this position because the moment you move the tube, it's out of that position. So you know, I expect the tube to make better contact if you don't push it all the way. Well, goodness knows what I've done here. So the cleaner I'm applying to it, you know, it's just a very powerful solvent. So if there were some oils in there, this might have some effect on it. But I think otherwise it's pretty ineffectual. I don't really know what good stuff would come of it. But again, what have I got? That's what I got. I don't think I want to throw soap in there or water in there. I don't think water is a good idea. That's for sure. I'm fighting corrosion, if that's what this is really all about. And if this works, what I'm doing, well, you know, how long is it going to work for? This radio is going to sit for 6 months and then be turned on and not work again. Now the last tube, the last tube is the one that I already dwelled on for this kind of problem. I'm not sure I want to fiddle with it too much. I did some socket work on this one, so I think we're going to leave that one alone. What do I do now? I have to find out if this has worked. It's wiggling the tube, seeing the effect, and okay, so last time touching this did nothing. I wiggled that tube, some pops and clicks, and from then on touching the chassis did something. So either the contact was finally made properly or the contact was lost in that situation. We can't even know that. And we can take a guess, but okay, so volume down. We have no signal generator or anything. We're just going to play the radio for what it's worth. Here we go. I would hope to pick some stations up back in here. I think that's alignment. The radio's better aligned up here than down here. Get a lot more volume up here, but no stations. Okay, let's try boosting it with my booster antenna. Where are you? Where are you? Booster antenna. I don't see it. I have to go hunt down my booster antenna here. Lots of weirdness going on here. So I'm tuned about the middle of the band. Hard for you to see, but there's a little marking dot on the knob. It should be resonating in the middle of the run. It's way up here, as if the radio's tuned to 1600. Just in case you haven't realized it, the antenna is in the lid here of this radio. I'm not really getting a very reassuring response out of this. I think we're going to need to like, well, what happened there? Nothing, then suddenly something. Okay, time to touch those tubes. Starting with the one I think is least likely, the problem. Nothing. 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 This is the problem one. Still a problem. Now the tone just changed a lot. Ooh, ooh. Why is the radio going so quiet? What's happening with this radio? 600. Still way up at the top of the range of this antenna. It should be at the bottom. What is going on here? frequency counter's out of control. So this is tuned to around 600. So that was the IF frequency going by. I'm looking way up here. 600 here. That's the IF. No sign of it. No sign of it. Okay, we'll reset this to, let's say, well above 1 million here. Turn it down. It's jumping all over the place. You hear it for a bit and then it jumped away. Hear it in different places. Okay, so it's up around 1 million, 1,010,000, 1,100,000 actually. Oh, this thing's just unstable like crazy. Okay, up to 1 million. That's 1.3. 1,300. You can hear it jumping around. This is roughly 1 million here. Nothing. Dirty volume control. Son of a gun. Son of a gun. Okay, let's deal with that. So there's a list of things you could do to a radio before you even try fixing it. Just kind of automatically, like clean the volume control or tone controls, whatever's in there. And other things you could do, like cleaning tube pins and stuff like that. But that's not my practice. My practice is to wait until there's an indication that something needs to be done. And to not rush into things, although at the end of a process, I could very well go ahead and do stuff that had never been indicated, like cleaning the volume control or something like that. So I can get a fair ways into a project, and then all of a sudden something that could have been dealt with early shows up, such as the dirty volume control deal. So now I use WD-40 on it. If this is very upsetting to you, I apologize. Okay, this is a volume control in the front here and a switch in the back. I don't want to do anything with the switch. Just up here. Now this has a chance of fixing an awful lot of stuff. Frankly, everything from the intermittent problem, strange behaviors. Really doesn't feel like it got in there. Okay. Shall we leave it up like this? We'll put it down. Okay, volume is down. What did we get out of that? Another really weird thing that I've found with these radios is sometimes the shafts themselves have an effect on the radio. Normally you're grabbing the shaft with a plastic knob, so you're not making electrical contact with your hand to the shaft, but when it's like this, you are. You grab the shaft and wiggle it around and get some dramatic effects out of it. Just because of variation in the grounding between the shaft and the chassis when your hand's on it. I don't think that's what's happening right now, though. I think really what's happening is I'm flexing the entire chassis and something else is really acting up. When I put the shocks into it like this, the shock travels through the whole radio. There's no telling what is being affected by it. Could be the tube. Could be the tube. Let's do some light tapping here and see if we can spot a sensitive spot. Spot a sensitive spot. Those are the tubes. Now, what about this tuning capacitor here? Notice the radio's just slowly gotten louder just now. Getting louder yet? So this is the tuning. This is the oscillator part of the capacitor, and I just tapped it and things went kind of wild. And it could be I just moved it a little bit, is what it could be. Doesn't seem to be anything happening now. Oh, intermittent problems, aren't they the best? So you should be picking up the signal generator right in here. Sure isn't there. Okay, full power on the signal generator. Where are you? Where is it? Should be right around here. We got 40% modulation at 1000 Hertz. It's not appearing. Well, where is this radio tune then? Okay, we'll pick a quiet spot here. If I can find one. So it's, whoa. Boy. Let me just flex the chassis here a little bit. I like that. It's really giving the speaker a workout. Oh. Oh, fix that. Oh my gosh. Ooh. Something. Where did it all go? How come it got so quiet? Just from me doing this. Did I bump the volume control or something? Oh my gosh. There's something wrong with this guy. Let's go back to this thing. That's pretty good. Wow. Zoom, bang, crash. Something ain't right here. Really weird problems can come from bad grounding. What are the chances? It's just bad grounding of this. To solve that, there's often a bond put in. Often it's a braided piece of wire. They solder it from the frame down to the chassis. I am looking for such a thing. So I don't see anything like that. I don't see any bonding. Pretty suspicious. Let's see if we can do a temporary bonding and see if we can detect any difference. So, I mean, this is a lousy clip too. It's really pretty poor, but let's try it. I'll just put this on the chassis somewhere. Somewhere good. Okay, now another possibility is that this is supposed to be isolated from the chassis, and I'm shorting it to the chassis. Certainly makes a difference. Well, we need to look underneath now. Turn it off. We'll see if this is mounted on grommets. It does not look to be the case. Look underneath. Yes, grommets. Yes, grommets. Grommets which are crushed flat. Can you see them in there? See a big washer with a flathead screw, and under it is a rubber grommet. And these appear to be crushed right down flat, including one of them could be shorted. I see one has a wire soldered to it, so that, and it goes to the ground on one of these. It goes down in here to a terminal, a grounding terminal on the tube socket there, and the tube socket is, how is it held down? It has been put in with rivets, so the tube sockets are riveted to the chassis. They are not soldered, and there is a connection utilizing the tube chassis. Is there any other connections to the chassis? This one right here. This one, which I remade. Didn't I? Didn't I discover this was floating? And I put that nut and bolt in there. Well, that would bring that to the chassis for sure. Hmm. Questions do abound. Yes, I have encountered radios with weird behaviors, and it turns out to be very hidden problems with chassis grounds. Radios are different. They're not all the same, how they're done. Okay. I don't know. I'm going to stop for a bit. Well, it's actually the next day now. It's the next morning. It's July 24th, and I've done everything I can to these tube sockets. I have little faith that I've improved them. I'm just thinking more and more about the extreme lengths I went to on one of the sockets earlier on in the series. Maybe that should have triggered me to think all the rest of them are going to be bad too. So the tubes are in. We're going to switch it on. We're going to see what happens, and if there's reliability in the tube sockets yet. And if there is, I carry on, and if there isn't, I may have to set this radio aside at that point once again. So let's give it a go here. Sounds like a radio. Still doing funny stuff over here, but that... I don't know what to make of that. I don't think it's tube related. Oh! Heavens, what was that? Is that a bolt of lightning somewhere near here? I don't think there's any lightning anywhere near us. Okay, we're gonna move the tubes a little bit and find out what happens here. Good? Good? Good, sort of. Good. Good. Here's the trouble guy. I didn't even touch it yet. Oh boy. Okay, that's enough. Well, wow. Short of starting to change sockets in this radio, I've never done that and really don't intend on doing it. How am I ever going to settle down this tube? It's this last one back here. I just don't know what more I can do here to the socket. Let me just pull the tube out and look. Is it because the socket is knocked open? It's lost its grip. Let's take a look in here and see what we can see. Now my new close-up camera is coming today, but it's not here just yet. Can't really see much with this. So is it possible that those socket grips are not gripping? They're just not gripping, and really the more I try, the looser they get. What I would need to do is bend them back closed somehow. Okay, I'm going to look into trying to do that, see if I can't make them tighter somehow. As you can see, I'm not lacking in spare sockets, and most of these are brand new sockets. So the kind that's in there is this kind. I think they're called clamshell. I think that's the nickname for them, because the gripping part is a little like a clamshell. Yeah, see, here's one. It's never been used, and what I'm looking at is how closed in the the clams are, and they're not very closed. I thought they'd be closed right up tight. I want to look, see, this one's the same. It looks, anything, it looks like it's pretty open in there. They all look the same. This is closer to the one that's in there. Well, they don't look really any different. In fact, you couldn't bend them open very far. Anyway, there's not much room in there. Now, how would they get bent open? Putting in and out a vacuum tube repeatedly, which I've done. Putting a tube in and wiggling it around, which I've done. That would loosen them up, I guess. And how does it feel? Let me use my practice tube here. Just how does it feel exactly going in there? Well, it feels like it's being gripped very tightly, in fact. It's really what it feels like. What else could be wrong? The pins themselves. And I don't really have a good camera here to look at this stuff. You know, they look like any other tube pins, but you know, I'm stuck for things to do here, so I'm going to clean these off a little bit. Bit of sandpaper. Provided I can find it here. Hello, sandpaper. Okay, I'm going to give this a try. Can't say I've ever tried filing these. I'm just very lightly going over them. Certainly are a little shinier. I think there's some black carbony stuff on here. So you might think about where this radio may have lived. Now, my wife grew up in a town called Espanola. It's in northern Ontario. It's a paper mill town. It has a paper mill in it. It's famous for what it smells like when you come into town, because of the smells coming out of the paper mill. It's a very large paper mill. The result of that is if you had anything silver in your house, it would turn black. It got a black coating on it. It's very, very, very obvious that there's something going on. That's just in the atmosphere of the town. So if that can be the case, you can have some industry producing a gas that's getting into your house and getting into all your stuff. Couldn't it get into these pins? So you know, you don't know the life of these radios. You don't know where they've lived, where they've hung out. You don't know what household chemicals have been around it, even. So it could be that there's certain radios that are going to have a bizarre problem because of the bizarre environment they live their lives in. Okay, so I'm not wanting to scrape off too much here. I can only kind of do it on the outside. Now, the very outside edge is actually a non-contact surface. The outside edge just kind of fits into the clam there such a way that this area I've been filing doesn't actually contact anything. It's really kind of in between here. So I'm wondering, you know, how much of this do I have to do to prove this as being effective or ineffective? Obviously, if I don't do enough, I can fool myself into thinking this is not the solution, when in fact it is, and I've just implemented it poorly. So we're going to do a little extra here. I need a thinner. Oh, that's a lot better. So the camera that's coming for me today is a replacement for the Microsoft Cinema camera I have. I've ordered a studio camera, which apparently is better quality. So I'm hoping my videos look a little better. Okay, I think I've scraped about enough of this. If this is going to help, it will have helped, I think. Okay, let's put it in. Okay, here we go. It's totally different operation here. Holy smokes. Seems different. Hey, what happened? My lights just went out. Pick something up. I'm going to touch that tube. We're going to find out what happens. There we are. Okay, so what I'm going to do at this point, because I actually have other radios from the same individual here, I think I'm going to have to set this guy aside again and carry on with some other radios. I don't sense success is going to come easily here. I think I get the impression I may be forced into changing sockets. Oh my gosh, never done that, don't want to do that. But I don't know how else to stabilize this this radio. That's the situation. Unfortunately, you know, when I make these videos and I start into them, I don't know how they're going to end. And normally they end okay, but sometimes I guess not. So he's going to go away and another radio is going to come out here and we're going to work on it. That'd be a good idea. Hey, thanks a lot for watching, and sorry about how it's going with this radio, but see you on the next one.